Let me ask you something. What if the single most powerful force shaping your life wasn't your job, your relationships, or even the opportunities that came your way? What if it was something simpler, something entirely within your control? It's your mind, your thoughts. I didn't always understand this. Like most people, I spent years blaming circumstances, waiting for the right opportunity, or thinking someone else held the key to my success and happiness. But I've come to realize that the true key was with me all along. It's not about the things happening around us, it's about what's happening inside. This idea isn't new. The ancient Stoics figured it out thousands of years ago. They taught that while we can't control the events of life, we can absolutely control how we respond to them. And that response, it's everything. It's what separates a life of regret and frustration from one of peace and purpose. Today, I want to share what I've learned about mastering your mind. Because when you learn to control your thoughts, you don't just survive life's challenges, you thrive in spite of them. Whether you're struggling to push through something difficult, dealing with uncertainty, or just searching for a clearer path, this is for you. I know some of you might be skeptical. I used to think the same thing. How could changing my thoughts really change my life? It sounds almost too simple. But I promise, by the end of this, you'll see why this isn't just about thinking positively. It's about rewiring the way you experience the world and stepping into a stronger, calmer version of yourself. So, if you're ready to join me on this journey, stick around. We're diving deep into the secret weapon the Stoics used to transform their lives, and that you can use to transform yours. Let's get started. 1. The thoughts that shape your reality. Let me take you back to a moment in my own life, a moment when everything felt like it was falling apart. I'd made a mistake at work, a big one, and it was the kind of thing that could derail a career. My mind was racing, playing out worst-case scenarios, losing my job, losing respect, losing everything I'd worked so hard for. That one thought spiraled into an avalanche of negativity. I could feel it dragging me down. Then I remembered something I'd read from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It hit me. My stress wasn't coming from the mistake itself. It was coming from my thoughts about the mistake. I had no control over the past. It had already happened. But I did have control over what I chose to think about it, and that made all the difference. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They believed it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That's the core of mental strength, realizing that you can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you think about it. Here's the truth. Your thoughts are incredibly powerful. They're like a lens through which you view the world. A negative thought can turn a minor inconvenience into a catastrophe. A single positive, constructive thought can turn a challenge into an opportunity. Think about your day so far. Maybe you woke up feeling stressed about everything on your plate. That stress probably started with a thought, I can't handle this. That one idea colored your entire morning, maybe even your entire day. But what if instead you thought, I've faced tough days before and I got through them. I can handle this too. Do you feel the difference? That's the power of your mind. I'm not saying it's easy. Rewiring your thoughts takes effort, especially when you've spent years letting negativity take the lead. But it starts with awareness, catching yourself in the act. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause. Ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Is it helping or hurting me? This isn't about suppressing negative thoughts. It's about choosing not to let them control you. You can observe them, understand them, and then consciously decide how to respond. That's where your real power lies. I've started thinking of my mind as a fortress. Outside there's chaos, stress, negativity, problems I can't control. But inside, That's my domain. I get to decide what comes in and what stays out. And the more I guard that fortress, the stronger it becomes. Remember, it's not the situation itself that defines your experience, it's how you choose to see it. You're always just one thought away from changing your perspective, and sometimes that's all you need to change your life. What's the thought that's been holding you back lately? Maybe it's time to challenge it, rewrite it, and start seeing just how much power your mind truly has. 2. The power of adversity. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when I thought adversity was my enemy. When something went wrong, a setback, a loss, a failure, I'd feel like life was conspiring against me. But then, one particularly tough year, when everything seemed to go wrong, I stumbled across a line from Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. I didn't understand it at first. How could obstacles possibly be the way forward? But then I started to see the truth behind those words. Adversity isn't a roadblock, it's the road itself. It's not something to avoid, it's something to embrace. Think about the challenges you've faced in your life. I mean the real ones, the times you didn't think you'd make it through. What did those moments teach you? I bet they taught you more than the easy times ever did. They probably revealed strengths you didn't even know you had. Adversity is like a mirror. It shows us who we really are. When life throws you a curveball, you find out if you're resilient or reactive, patient or impulsive, courageous or timid. And the beautiful thing is, even if you don't like what you see, adversity gives you the chance to change. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I faced a major professional setback. A project I'd poured months into completely failed. I felt humiliated, frustrated, and, to be honest, a little bitter. For a while, I let those emotions consume me. But then I remembered Marcus Aurelius. What stands in the way becomes the way. I started looking at the failure differently. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" I asked, "What can I learn from this?" And that simple shift in perspective changed everything. The failure became a lesson, a brutal one, sure, but a lesson I could use to do better next time. That's the thing about adversity. It pushes you out of your comfort zone, forcing you to grow. Just like a muscle needs resistance to get stronger, you need challenges to build mental strength. Here's what I've learned. Every obstacle carries a hidden gift. Maybe it's resilience, maybe it's wisdom, maybe it's a new perspective you never would have found otherwise. The key is to stop seeing adversity as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher. Of course, that doesn't mean adversity isn't painful. It is. The Stoics never said we should deny our pain, but they did teach us not to waste it. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, and suffering happens when we resist the lesson adversity is trying to teach us. So the next time life throws you a curveball, don't ask, "Why me?" Instead, ask, "What now?" Embrace the challenge, learn the lesson, and remember, what stands in the way becomes the way. 3. Building resilience through perspective. I used to think resilience was about being tough, about putting on a brave face and pushing through no matter what. But as life has thrown its punches, I've realized that resilience isn't about toughness, it's about perspective. And that shift in understanding has changed everything for me. The Stoics believed that our perception is everything. Epictetus said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." Let that sink in for a moment. It's not what happens to you that causes suffering, it's how you interpret it. I remember a moment when this principle hit me like a ton of bricks. I had just received some devastating personal news, one of those moments that shakes your foundation. My first instinct was to spiral. Why me? Why now? How am I supposed to deal with this? But then I caught myself. I remembered what I'd been reading about Stoicism. I took a step back, literally. I walked outside, sat on a park bench and asked myself, what's really happening here? Yes, the situation was painful, but was it the end of the world? No. Was there something I could control? Maybe not the situation itself, but I could control my response to it. And that's the core of resilience, taking a step back, shifting your perspective, and choosing your response. Here's a practical example. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first reaction might be anger. You might think, how dare they? Don't they know how to drive? But take a Stoic approach. Instead of letting that anger control you, ask yourself, what's really going on here? Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Maybe they're having a terrible day. Or maybe they're just a bad driver. Either way, their actions don't have to dictate your emotions. The same principle applies to bigger challenges. Lost your job? That's hard, no question. But instead of spiraling, ask, what's within my control? How can I use this setback to pivot towards something better? Lost a relationship? Painful, yes. But what lessons can you take from it to ensure your next one is healthier? Resilience isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is fine. It's about reframing your perspective to find a path forward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's resilience in a nutshell. It's the realization that while you can't control the storm, you can control how you navigate it. And here's the thing, the more you practice shifting your perspective, the easier it becomes. Like any skill, it takes time and effort, but the payoff is enormous. When you master your perception, you master your response. And when you master your response, you master your life. The next time you face a challenge, try this. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what's really happening here? What's within my control? How can I grow from this? It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. 4. Embracing adversity as a teacher. Adversity is a strange thing. It's uncomfortable, unwelcome, and at times downright painful. Yet, every significant lesson I've learned in life has come on the other side of adversity. It wasn't until I embraced this idea that I began to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To the untrained mind, adversity feels like a dead end. But to someone living with Stoic wisdom, it's a doorway, a chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. I remember a time when everything in my life seemed to be falling apart. A failed project, financial stress, and personal loss all collided at once, leaving me feeling defeated. My natural instinct was to ask, why me? But then I paused. What if, instead of asking why, I asked how? How can I turn this into something meaningful? How can I grow from this? That shift in thinking changed everything. I stopped seeing the situation as a punishment and started seeing it as preparation. Every obstacle, every setback became a lesson. The failed project taught me the importance of better planning. The financial stress pushed me to be more disciplined. The personal loss reminded me of the value of time and relationships. Adversity is life's greatest teacher, but only if we're willing to learn. It challenges us to confront our weaknesses, to adapt, and to persevere. It strips away the unnecessary and forces us to focus on what truly matters. Without adversity, there's no growth, no progress, no strength. The Stoics often compared life to a wrestling match. Epictetus said, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." A wrestler doesn't grow stronger by avoiding the mat. They grow stronger by stepping onto it, again and again, learning from each grapple. Life works the same way. Each challenge we face is another match, another opportunity to build our resilience and sharpen our skills. Here's how I've learned to approach adversity. First, I acknowledge it. Pretending it doesn't exist only delays the process. Then, I ask myself, what can I learn from this? Finally, I take action, not to avoid the discomfort, but to move through it with intention. Take a moment to think about a challenge you're currently facing. Instead of resisting it or wishing it away, ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? How can I use this to become better? You might not see the lesson immediately. Sometimes the clarity comes later, after the storm has passed. But I promise you, if you approach adversity with a willingness to learn, you'll come out stronger on the other side. When life throws you a curveball, remember this. It's not about avoiding adversity. It's about embracing it. Let it teach you, shape you, and transform you. That's the Stoic way, and it's a path that leads to incredible growth and self-discovery. 5. The inner citadel, protecting your mind. There's a place within each of us, a fortress untouched by the chaos of the outside world. The Stoics called it the inner citadel. It's where your thoughts, values, and principles reside. The world can throw its worst at you, but this inner space remains yours, protected from external forces. I didn't always understand the importance of this. For a long time, I allowed people's opinions, unforeseen setbacks, and even trivial inconveniences to invade my mental space. A harsh comment from someone close, a missed opportunity, or even a bad day could unravel me completely. I felt like a leaf in the wind, easily swayed by the circumstances around me. It wasn't until I read Marcus Aurelius that this changed. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those words hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized that I'd been handing over my power, allowing external forces to dictate my inner peace. Building your inner citadel isn't about shutting the world out or pretending everything is fine. It's about creating a space within yourself that remains calm, steady, and untouchable no matter what happens. It's about recognizing that while you can't control what happens to you, you can control how you respond. I started small. The next time I felt criticized or misunderstood, I paused. Instead of reacting impulsively, I asked myself, does this comment change who I am or what I stand for? The answer, almost always, was no. And just like that, the power shifted back to me. Over time, this practice became a habit. When faced with unexpected challenges, a delay in plans, an unkind word, a sudden disappointment, I learned to retreat inward, into my citadel. There, I'd find clarity. I'd remind myself that no external event could define me unless I allowed it to. Here's the beauty of this practice. The stronger your inner citadel becomes, the less the external world can shake you. You stop seeking validation from others. You stop reacting to every little inconvenience. You become grounded, unshakable, and deeply at peace with yourself. Think of your mind as a gate. You decide what thoughts, opinions, and influences are allowed in. Are you letting negativity, fear, or doubt take up residence? Or are you choosing to protect your space, filling it with wisdom, gratitude, and resilience? One of the most powerful things you can do is to reinforce your citadel daily. Meditation, journaling, or even a moment of quiet reflection can strengthen this inner space. These practices remind you of your values, help you process emotions, and keep you anchored in what truly matters. The Stoics didn't teach this to make life easier. They taught it to make us stronger. The world will always test your boundaries, but when you have a strong inner citadel, you meet those tests with calmness and confidence. The next time life throws you a curveball, retreat inward. Ask yourself, does this deserve space in my mind? Does this align with the values I've chosen to live by? When you protect your citadel, You protect your peace, and that's a power no one can take away. 6. Turning adversity into strength. There's something powerful about reframing hardship. For years, I thought challenges were meant to knock me down, to remind me of my limits. But then I discovered the Stoic way of seeing adversity, not as an obstacle, but as a tool for growth. Marcus Aurelius said it best: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." I remember one particular moment when life felt overwhelming. A business deal I'd poured months into fell apart, leaving me questioning my abilities and my path forward. I was angry, frustrated, and tempted to give up entirely. But then I asked myself, what if this isn't happening to me? What if it's happening for me? That's the mindset Stoicism teaches us. Adversity isn't just something to endure. It's a training ground for resilience. Every challenge, no matter how painful, is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. When I stopped seeing setbacks as punishments and started viewing them as lessons, everything shifted. Think about the hardest moments in your life. Maybe it was a loss, a betrayal, or a failure. At the time, it felt unbearable. But looking back, didn't those moments shape you in ways success never could? They tested your patience, demanded your courage, and forced you to adapt. This is what the Stoics meant when they said adversity is essential. The next time you face a challenge, pause and ask, what can I learn from this? How can this make me better? Instead of resisting the struggle, lean into it. Let it teach you what you need to know. For me, that failed business deal wasn't the end. It was a beginning. It taught me how to be resourceful, how to pivot, and most importantly, how to trust my ability to rebuild. Without that setback, I wouldn't have developed the grit I have today. Adversity doesn't just test you, it transforms you. The Stoics understood that life's difficulties are what forge our character. Like a blacksmith hammering metal, each challenge shapes us into something stronger, more refined. The key is to stop running from discomfort. Instead, see it as an ally, a necessary part of your journey. The next time you're tempted to complain about a tough situation, remember, this is your chance to grow. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The fire feeds on obstacles. You are that fire." Challenges aren't there to extinguish your flame, they're there to fuel it. Let adversity refine you, not define you. 7. The power of perspective. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when life throws curveballs. I've been there, staring at a problem so massive, it seemed like the end of the world. But one thing I've learned from Stoicism is that perspective is everything. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." I remember a moment years ago when I lost an important opportunity. At the time, it felt catastrophic, like everything I'd worked for was crumbling. I let myself spiral into frustration and self-pity, replaying what had gone wrong and blaming myself. But then I paused and asked, what would this look like from 10,000 feet above? That question shifted everything. The Stoics taught that most of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from the way we perceive them. A lost opportunity isn't inherently tragic. It's just a redirection. A disagreement with someone you love isn't the end of a relationship. It's a moment to understand each other better. When you change the way you see a problem, you change its power over you. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. The peak seems impossible to reach, steep, distant, and shrouded in clouds. Now imagine looking at that same mountain from a plane. From above, it's small, almost insignificant. The mountain hasn't changed, your perspective has. That's the power of seeing the bigger picture. In life, most of the things we stress over are temporary. Will this setback matter in 5 years? In 1 year? Often the answer is no. When you train yourself to step back and view life through a wider lens, the immediate difficulties lose their grip on you. This isn't about dismissing your feelings or pretending challenges don't exist. It's about grounding yourself in reality. For me, that missed opportunity turned out to be a blessing. It pushed me in a direction I wouldn't have chosen otherwise, a direction that led to even greater success. The Stoics would tell us, when faced with hardship, ask yourself, what is within my control here? Instead of fixating on what's gone wrong, focus on what you can change. Can you improve your skills, shift your strategy, or learn something valuable from the situation? When you take control of your perspective, you take control of your life. Think about the challenges you're facing right now. Are they as permanent or as devastating as they seem? Or could they be stepping stones, leading you to something better? It's all in how you choose to see them. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. If you can remember that, especially during tough times, you'll find a calm strength that can't be shaken. 8. Embrace the silence. Life today is noisy. Notifications buzz, conversations swirl, and opinions flood every corner of our world. I used to fill every moment of my day with sound, podcasts while I worked out, music during walks, and scrolling social media whenever I had a free second. But one day, I realized something. I wasn't just avoiding silence, I was avoiding myself. The Stoics valued silence deeply, not as an absence of sound, but as a presence of clarity. Marcus Aurelius often sought solitude to reflect, writing, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." When I finally embraced silence, I discovered how powerful it could be. At first, sitting alone with my thoughts was uncomfortable. Without distractions, I was forced to confront my fears, insecurities, and unfiltered emotions. But over time, that silence became a space for growth. I started to hear my own voice, the one I had drowned out with the noise of the world. Silence is where clarity begins. It's where you can reflect on the choices you're making, the path you're walking, and the person you're becoming. It's in the stillness that you uncover what truly matters. For me, it became a daily ritual. A few minutes every morning to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and simply be. When you embrace silence, you begin to notice how much of your life is filled with unnecessary noise, arguments that don't need to happen, worries that don't deserve your energy, opinions that aren't yours to carry. In the quiet, you can let go of what doesn't serve you and focus on what does. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is that silence is a statement. When faced with criticism, drama, or negativity, responding with silence can be more powerful than any argument. It's a way of saying, "I'm choosing my peace over your chaos." Imagine what would happen if you carved out just a little silence in your day. Not to fill with thoughts of the past or worries about the future, but to simply listen to yourself, to your intuition, to the wisdom within you. That's where transformation begins. The world will always try to pull you into its noise, but you don't have to follow. In silence, you reclaim your power. You reconnect with yourself. And in doing so, you find the clarity and strength to face anything. 9. Let go of what you can't control. There was a time in my life when I tried to control everything, every outcome, every interaction, every small detail. I believed that if I could just manage every aspect of my world, I would be happy. But the truth I learned, painfully, was that control is an illusion. The more I tried to control the uncontrollable, the more I felt overwhelmed, anxious, and, quite frankly, powerless. Stoicism taught me one of its most profound lessons. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. This shift in perspective changed my life. The reality is, life happens. People act in ways we don't understand. Situations unfold that we can't predict or change. No matter how much you prepare, things will not always go according to plan. For years, I spent countless hours worrying about the future, overthinking decisions, and agonizing over mistakes that had already been made. But here's what I realized. That energy, spent on things I couldn't control, was pulling me further from peace. It wasn't helping me. It was harming me. It's liberating to let go of control, to understand that you can't micromanage the universe, other people, or every outcome in your life. The Stoics call this differentiating between what is up to us and what is not. We can't control what others think of us, how they behave, or the external circumstances that unfold. What we can control is how we respond, how we act, think, and maintain our peace despite the chaos. The moment I realized that I didn't have to control everything, I started to feel lighter. I started to embrace uncertainty. The times I used to worry about became moments of freedom, where I chose how I responded rather than trying to change the circumstances. It's like standing in the middle of a storm and not being tossed around by it, because you've learned to stand firm, not through force, but through acceptance. Here's the hard truth. You're going to face disappointments, losses, and frustrations. Life is full of them. But how you choose to face them, how you control your mind and reactions, is what defines you. Let go of the need to control things you can't. Trust that the universe has a way of working itself out. And when you choose to focus on what's in your control, you stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. I encourage you to do this. Look at something in your life that's stressing you out, that you can't change, and simply accept it. Release your grip. Don't fight it. That's where your power lies, not in trying to control, but in mastering the art of letting go. 10. Master your own mind. I used to think that the key to success was external, more connections, more money, more opportunities. I focused so much on shaping the world around me that I ignored the most important factor, my own mind. The truth I discovered is that the world is influenced not by the things that happen to you, but by how you respond to them. And the power to control your response is rooted in one simple, profound truth. Your thoughts create your reality. There's a famous Stoic quote that says, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And I realized how true this was the hard way. For years, I let negative thoughts dominate my mind, believing that my circumstances determined my happiness. But the moment I began practicing mental discipline, everything shifted. The Stoics understood that we are not our thoughts. They recognized that the thoughts we entertain influence everything, from how we feel about ourselves to how we interact with the world. Our thoughts shape our emotions, and our emotions shape our decisions. The cycle is endless, and if we aren't careful, it's easy to become trapped in a negative feedback loop that spirals downward. But here's the game changer. We can train our minds. Think about it. If you've ever been caught in a negative thought pattern, whether it's self-doubt, fear, or anxiety, you know how it feels like you're losing control. That's because, without awareness, we let our minds control us. But when we develop the ability to observe our thoughts, to pause before reacting, we reclaim control. We take the reins. I remember a time in my life when I was overwhelmed with uncertainty. I couldn't see a clear path forward, and I was consumed by doubt. But one simple practice, the Stoic idea of self-reflection, changed everything. I started questioning my thoughts. I asked myself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Does it empower me? And in that space of inquiry, I was able to shift from fear to action, from doubt to confidence. Mastering your mind doesn't mean you'll never face challenges or feel negative emotions. It means that you no longer let those thoughts dictate your life. You can feel anger, but you choose how you respond. You can feel fear, but you refuse to let it paralyze you. You can feel overwhelmed, but you don't allow it to steal your peace. The Stoics practiced what's known as mindful detachment, the ability to observe your thoughts without attaching to them. This is the key to mental freedom. Once you realize that thoughts are temporary, fleeting, and often not based on reality, you can let go of the power they have over you. Start by creating small daily practices to strengthen your mind. Meditate, journal, breathe deeply, or simply sit in silence for a few moments each day. By building these habits, you'll begin to notice a shift. You'll become more aware of your inner dialogue, and you'll gain control over the thoughts that no longer serve you. With time, you'll realize that nothing in life can control you unless you let it. This, to me, is the most powerful lesson I've learned, that I am not a victim of my thoughts, but their master. And once you truly realize this, nothing can stand in your way. You'll move through life with purpose, clarity, and inner peace. Your mind will no longer be a battleground, but a sanctuary of strength and resilience. Master your mind, and you master your life.